Welcome to the Vendor Management Webinar. On behalf of the entire team here at Vendor Registry, I thank you for taking your time to join me, and we hope that you will find the next few minutes to be very informative. This webinar is being attended by prospective Vendor Registry customers, buyers across the public sector who share a common goal: to build a vendor list and protocol that will support an efficient and effective solicitation process. As a buyer or anyone involved in the purchasing process, how many of you have ever felt like this? We thought so. Our goal at Vendor Registry is to do just that, to build an easy-to-manage vendor registry that maximizes your reach during a streamlined, effective solicitation process in order to achieve optimum results. During this webinar, we will showcase improved vendor document management, easier transition from bid to contract, easier bid postings and notifications, access to hundreds of cooperative contracts, and new features by popular request. A number of those attending may have seen a vendor management demo in the past, so in addition to providing an overview of our current tool, I'll highlight a few of the changes in response to these users' requests, as well as enhancements that are expected in the near future. At the conclusion of the webinar, we will have a brief question and answer session. So please submit your questions via the chat box throughout the presentation, and we'll address as many questions as time allows. Also note that this is a high-level look at our vendor management system, so you'll no doubt wish to schedule a one-on-one online demo with one of our account executives for more detailed information. My name is Glenda Williams, and I'm the manager of Buyer Customer Support. I'm the frontline contact for our buyers, representing a team of software developers and information analysts that work incredibly hard behind the scenes. My mission is to provide training and user support to folks like you, the buyers. It is worth noting that we also have a team dedicated to serving your vendors, taking that burden from you. So let's take a look at Vendor Registry's vendor management system. Vendor Registry's vendor management system is one tool in a suite of services that we offer. In addition to VMS, we also offer a contract management system, a bid evaluation system, and a spend tracking system. Each of our tools is designed to work independently, as well as together as an integrated purchasing solution. With VMS, you can register, manage, and collect vendor information quickly and easily with our online platform. You can build a list of vendors sorted by the products and services they sell. Vendors self-register through a link posted to your website and also receive invitations from you to become a member of your vendor registry based on your procurement needs. You may collect vendor documentation and diversity information. Collect your vendors' W-9s, E-Verify, certificate of insurance, and other information, including certifications and diversity declarations. You may recruit from Vendor Registry's community of vendors, which currently numbers over 75,000 and is growing. With VMS, you can post solicitations and RFPs to your website with one click, post associated documents and addendums as needed. When the solicitation expires, the posting is automatically updated. And you can access a library of thousands of other agency solicitations and RFPs that serve as a resource as you create yours, because after all, why recreate the wheel? And you may join for free or upgrade to our VMS Premium service. I'll note that all of the tools that I'm covering today are part of our free VMS service. Vendors will interact with you through two links that we provide to you for posting to your website. One is the vendor self-registration link, and the other is the solicitation link. You're able to post both sealed solicitations and quote requests with the VMS tool. So let's take a look at the vendor management tool. You as a buyer will operate from the Vendor Registry app. When you sign on, you land onto the dashboard. that provides you an overview of your vendors and solicitations and other information in real time. From here, you can access your vendor registry, our community of vendors, as well as your solicitations. If you've seen a demo of this tool in the past, you may notice that the Profile tab that used to be located right here is no longer appearing, and that's because we have moved all of the profile information and settings into one location, an aggregate location across all of our tools. So we're going to click on Settings, and here you'll see that this is where we input your agency information, as well as where you indicate the documentation that you wish to gather from your vendors, how often you'd like for the information to be updated, and the way in which you would like to receive notifications regarding your vendors. I'd like to note that although vendors are prompted to provide this information, such as W-9, E-Verify, Iran divestment, certificates of insurance, business licenses, if they do not provide this information or all of the information that you've requested, this does not prevent them from registering with you, nor does it preclude their ability to receive solicitations and submit bids. They are alerted that they've not provided all of the requested information, as are you. User roles are also assigned within the settings, allowing access to different functions within the app based on the user role assigned to your employees. And you'll notice the Co-op tab over here. You have the opportunity to join the Vendor Registry Co-op. We currently partner with 2 national co-ops, National IPA and Sourcewell, with other partnerships being developed. By joining the co-op, you have the opportunity to piggyback onto scores of national contracts. So that's exciting. As you come on board with Vendor Registry, we will assist you in populating all of these settings. The implementation training takes 30 minutes or less, and then you'll be ready to begin recruiting vendors and creating solicitations. So let's move on over to the Vendor tab and take a look. From the Vendor tab, you can access either your vendor registry, your vendor list, or our vendor community. So when you're on your app, you will see the vendors that have registered with you here. These, of course, are from our demo account, but you'll see the vendor name, the company name, the contact at the vendor, and when you hover over that contact name, you'll see the email and the phone number, as well as the ability to click on the profile. You'll also notice here 2 columns, verified and required. This indicates of the number of documentations or documents that you have requested, how many have been provided, and how many of those have you verified if you're choosing to verify the documentation. Let's click on the profile really quickly on one of these and show you what's available on the vendor level. And here you'll see that the vendor agency information is input here, including diversity declarations, their documents, and you can also see what other governments this vendor is registered with and the products and services that they have indicated that they provide by NIGP code. Okay. So that is your list. Now, what if you want to build your list, add to your vendor registry list? If you have a particular business name that you want to look for out of our vendor registry, particular products or services that you want to pull in, keywords, a particular person's contact's name, or their email address, you can do so and pull from our community of vendors. So let's say that I want to pull up paving companies. And I want to pull that, of course, by products and services. So it pulls in 5 different paving companies out of our community of vendors on this demo. And so I have the ability to now request that these vendors register with me and become part of my vendor registry. And you can pick and choose. You don't have to recruit everyone. So you have the ability to access over 75,000 different vendors by being a part of our vendor community. Now let's take a look at the solicitations. Here you'll notice that you can view your current solicitations, your expired solicitations, and then we have a library of RFPs and solicitations from other public agencies from which you can draw. Let's take a look at current solicitations now, and you'll just notice that you can see quotes and sealed solicitations. It gives you the type of solicitation it is, the name of your solicitation, the deadline if there was one, the status, whether it's been published, it's a draft, or it's been canceled, a solicitation number if you've indicated one. Here we'll take a look at the sealed solicitations. And of course, you can pull up current or expired. Let's take a look quickly at how to create a solicitation. You'll be surprised at how quick and easy this is. I'm going to add a playground. That's going to be the name of my solicitation and how it will display on my website. I'll put in additional information here that I want to display on my website. The deadline for the solicitation, I'm going to give it a month. The time that the deadline occurs, I'm going to say 2 in the afternoon. The time zone will automatically populate for the buyer because this is a demo, it does not, so I'll choose it. Any solicitation number, which is a combination of alphanumeric or special characters, if you use one, it's not required. You can input whether or not you're having a pre-solicitation meeting and that date and time and meeting details. And then we're going to move on to the next page where we will add our RFP and other specs, any other documentation that you would like to attach to this solicitation. And here you see the ability to attach 5 different documents. You actually are not limited to the number of documents. If you have more than 5, there's another place where you can add the remaining documents. So I'm going to choose to add my RFP. So I'm going to take that there, pull it in, it's attached. And now I'm going to move on and indicate the kinds of products and services that I'm looking for this solicitation. Now I can filter by just products, just services, or both. I want to have a playground built for me, so I'm going to just choose both products and services. Enter in the word playground. And here the NIGP codes with their descriptions pull in. So from this list of possible NIGP codes and descriptions, I'm going to choose what I think corresponds best to my particular project. So I just click on the NIGP codes that I want to use. I don't have to remember any descriptions or NIGPs. They always display for me. If I pull over something that I realize later I really didn't mean to pull over, I can take it away. And as I selected those NIGP codes and descriptions, you'll notice that to the right, it pulled in vendors from my vendor registry. So these 2 vendors were part of my vendor list, and it pulled them in. In addition, it shows me my available co-op contracts. If I'm a member of the co-op, I can piggyback off one of those. So that's exciting. So at this point, I have 2 vendors, and I'm happy to send notifications to these 2 vendors about the solicitation, but I know I'm going to want more than 2 vendors bidding, so I'm going to need to recruit. But we'll talk about that in just a moment. So I'm going to click Next. This pops me back to my solicitation. I take a look at it, make sure that everything looks right to me. It shows now my products and services chosen, document my RFP that I uploaded. I'm not going to have a pre-solicitation meeting, but if I did, I could put it there. And I have the opportunity now to either publish later, and if I chose to publish later, I would input my day and time when it would automatically publish for me. I can save it as a draft if I'm waiting for additional information, or I can go ahead and publish. I'm going to choose to go ahead and publish. Okay, now, so I've published it. I'm going to go back into my list of solicitations and find it. So here we go. Here's my solicitation. And I want to take a look at my public version, how it's going to look on my website. So I can click on public version and I can see how it appears. And that's exactly the way that I want it to look. And so I go back and I say, great, I'm happy with that. I'm ready to notify those 2 vendors that were in my vendor list on my vendor registry. So when I click on to notify vendors, it's going to pull up those 2 vendors, let me know whether or not um, they are compliant or non-compliant, whether or not they have provided the documentation. But again, just because they haven't provided any, part of the documentation or all of the documentation that I've requested, I still can send them the solicitation. So I would click on Send. Now I'm ready to go back to my published solicitation and recruit additional vendors because I'm not happy with only having a couple of vendors being notified. So I want a better bidding situation than that. So I want to recruit vendors. Okay, here the system has remembered the NIGP codes that I chose. And so it remembers those and pulls over. And I have the opportunity now to either recruit from a nationwide vendor list by clicking on all states, and it pulls over 488 vendors. That may be a little bit more than I want. Or I can click off of nationwide and I can just pull from, say, my local area. Let's just say I'm going to pull from my state, and it pulls in 60 vendors. But at this point, you can choose to recruit all of these vendors and have them all receive a notification, or just pick and choose the ones that you would like to send your solicitation to. So I'm going to just choose these 5, for example. And at this point, I will click on Recruit, and they will send, receive an email notification from you, sent by us, asking them to not only register with you as a vendor for your vendor list, but also to bid on that particular solicitation. And that is how the solicitation works. Pretty easy. Now, a couple of things to note. I want to go back into that solicitation really quickly and show you, we had different statuses: canceled, published, draft. Let's take a look at a solicitation once the deadline has expired. And I'm just going to take a look at this one. And we'll see that we have different options as to what we can do once the deadline has passed. We can now set this solicitation to in review. So if it's going to be several days, a week or 2 or more time before you have your team together to review the bids that come in and make an evaluation and award that solicitation, you could set this status to in review. That will post it to your website. You could also then notify all of the vendors that received that original solicitation notice and let them know you're in review, and you can even add a note to let them know when the award will take place. This hopefully will prevent vendors from calling or coming by or sending emails inquiring as to what's going on with a particular bid. Once you award, you can set to awarded and do the same thing, notify, add a note. You can add as much information about the award as you care to, and of course, if need be, you can set to canceled. At this point, I'll mention also that if you make use of our contract management system, you can also copy the award information over to the contract, which is very convenient. So let's take a look back at your other options here under solicitations. So that was your current, this is your expired. Let's take a look at the library. And this is an option that I just love. As having worked for a municipality years ago for quite some time, I created RFPs, and I tell you that was not my favorite thing to do. So you have access to other public agencies' solicitations and RFPs, so that when you're creating yours, you can take a look and use theirs as a template, lift some of the language, get ideas about what yours needs to look like. You're not having to recreate the wheel. So let's just take a look at playground again. And we can either search in title, overview, or products and services. I'm going to click on products and services and click on search. And it's going to pull up the contracts that we have, I'm sorry, the solicitations that we have from our other public agencies that are about playgrounds. So you see you have quite a number. You've got 200 here from which you can glean information. And that is the solicitation function. It takes just a minute or two to create a solicitation. Creating a quote is even a little bit shorter. It's a very similar process, but not quite as in-depth. And then you can award or change your status with the expired, and you can also access for templates from our library. As I mentioned as well, we have the opportunity to piggyback onto a co-op contract. And so if you click on the co-op tab, you can see a list of the cooperative contracts here. And you can again filter and search by keyword, distance, particular states. So it's just a wealth of information which you can pull contracts and piggyback off of those and take advantage of being part of a co-op. So this is the vendor management tool. I hope that this has been very informative. I'm sure that some of you will have questions, so we'll take a moment and look at the questions that are coming in. As I mentioned, I hope that you'll ask questions here in the chat box. If we are unable to answer your question prior to the end of the webinar here in a moment, we will certainly try to respond via email. But we do encourage your questions. And again, I encourage you to sign up for a quick demo with an account executive. A VMS demo takes less than 30 minutes, and we'll be able to answer the questions that you have specific to your particular needs in your agency. And I also want to mention a couple of things that we have upcoming. We're always making enhancements and improvements to the tools, and our VMS tool is no exception. Right now, we have planned an increased functionality across the tool that includes a general vendor notification function. We've had several clients request that they be able to notify their vendors of different events or different information upcoming and don't want to do so through a solicitation function. So we are trying to put together a vendor notification system. Very excited about that.